Discover the touching moment. Single dad CEO orders 2 coffees after girl's heartbreaking confession. In the heart of downtown Chicago, life roared. Cars honked, footsteps echoed, and the sweet aroma of fresh coffee danced through the air. It was Saturday morning, and in a cozy coffee shop filled with laughter and clinking mugs, Jake, a dedicated single dad and CEO, sat across from his bright-eyed daughter, Mia. With every sip of his cappuccino, her innocent laughter washed over him, providing relief from his high-stakes world of deadlines and board meetings, but beneath the surface of their joyful bond, a tide of concern churned. Mia had been quiet lately, her sparkling smile dimming as she faced whispers and judgment from classmates who struggled to understand their unconventional family dynamic. Just as Jake was about to ask her a question, he saw her eyes drop, the light flickering out. "Dad, kids at school say I'm not normal because I only have you." The words tumbled out, raw and quivering, as if they were stones dropped into Jake's heart. He could feel the weight settle in his chest, a heavy, familiar ache. In that moment, he shattered emotionally. The ambition to build a successful life for them felt dwarfed by the desperate need to shield Mia from the world's harsh truths. He ordered 2 coffees, one for him and one for Mia, his small but profound gesture of unwavering support. With each sip, he glanced at her, realizing how deeply they were molded by her words. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As they exited the cafe, something ignited within Jake. He couldn't just sit idly by while misconceptions defined their lives. So, he took a stand, engaging the community in ways he never imagined. He organized casual meetups at the coffee shop for single parents, curating a haven where stories and struggles could be shared. And in those meetings, he found unexpected allies, voices that resonated with his ambivalence, yet, the whispers didn't fade. Critics questioned his capability as a single dad, determined to uphold the notion that traditional structures alone define family. Jake faced the backlash, turning to social media with heartfelt posts that challenged stereotypes, redefining what family means through love and connection. Mia observed her father, feeling both pride and uncertainty. She watched him transform his pain into purpose. However, as they stood on the brink of public intervention, a question lingered. Would their community embrace their story or cling to old prejudices? As Jake prepared for a speech aimed at fostering understanding among diverse families, Mia squeezed his hand nervously. "What if they don't listen, Dad?" The weight of her uncertainty hung between them as the crowd grew quiet, anticipation crackling in the air. Jake opened his mouth to speak, but a dissenting voice sliced through the stillness. He took a deep breath, heart racing. This was at the defining moment where hope and despair would dance a fragile waltz. How would he respond, and where would it lead their family's story? Jake's eyes darted through the crowd, scanning familiar faces mingled with strangers, each of them full of expectation. His heart thumped heavily against his ribcage, the weight of Mia's question lingering like a shadow. The dissenting voice that had cut through the silence belonged to a woman at the front, arms crossed defiantly. "This isn't how families are supposed to look." Mia tightened her grip on his hand, her small fingers trembling. Jake felt her fear wrap around him, pulling him deeper into a well of uncertainty. He stood taller, activating all his determination to defend their unconventional bond. "Excuse me," he called out, the strength in his voice surprising even himself. "Can I share something with you all?" The crowd's murmurs quieted as they turned their focus on him. Jake's heart raced, but he ignored the fear and instead locked his gaze on the woman at the front. "Families come in all shapes and sizes. We're just as valid as any other family out there." He could hear the trembling edge of pride in his own voice, but he pushed through. "Mia is my world. And being a single dad doesn't make me less capable of raising her, loving her, or giving her everything she needs. Gasps and whispers cascaded through the crowd like ripples in water. Jake could see furrowed brows, side glances exchanged, some heads nodding slowly, while others remained fixed in doubt. It was both exhilarating and terrifying. "Do you have any idea what the average single-parent faces?" he continued, pacing slightly. "We juggle work, school, parent-teacher meetings, and still manage to make sure our kids feel loved and supported. I'm proud of that." He caught a glimpse of Mia's face, which had begun to shift from worry to realization, her eyes brightening with a mix of pride and hope. A few supporters emerged, nodding enthusiastically. "That's right," shouted a man from the back, clapping. "You're doing great as a dad." Jake felt a wave of support wash over him. With growing confidence, he added, "We may not look like a textbook family, but love is what makes us whole. You can be a family without fitting a mold. So yes, we are normal even if we are different." He glanced back at Mia, whose face was lighting up. Her smile began to blossom, tentative at first, then fully shining. That image fueled Jake's spirit. And just as he began to feel momentum, the woman at the front interjected, her voice sharp. "But what about stability? What about what the children say? Can you really be there for her?" A hush fell over the crowd. Jake's breath caught. He sensed the gravity of the question. This one could unravel everything. What defines stability? He began slowly, carefully considering his words. "It's not just two parents under one roof, it's love, support, and the assurance that you will always be there for each other, no matter what." The crowd shifted again, that crackling anticipation lingering in the air. Eyes darted between Jake and the dissenting woman. Mia finally spoke up, her voice small but steady. "My dad is there for me. All the time. I wouldn't change a thing." Jake's heart swelled with pride. He felt as if they were standing together, unbreakable against the tide of skepticism. But, would this shift the perception of just one person, or the entire community? As Jake continued, hoping to turn doubt into understanding, the dissenting voice fell silent, but a new thrill of uncertainty ran through him. This was only the beginning. How far would they have to go to redefine their narrative? Would the tide truly turn in their favor, or was this just a step toward a bigger confrontation? Jake took a deep breath, glancing around at their audience one more time, still waiting for the reaction that could change everything. Jake's words hung in the air, and the silence was almost electric. He could feel the weight of every gaze, a mixture of scrutiny and curiosity. For a moment, time felt suspended, the very heartbeat of the crowd echoing a collective breath. Then, like a wave breaking against the shore, murmurs started up again. "Who are we to define family?" someone muttered in the back, their voice barely rising above the swelling noise. It was as if they were questioning not just Jake, but their own beliefs. More voices joined in, aligning with Jake's message. "You're right," claimed a younger woman, her voice tinged with passion. "Family is about love, not labels." Mia's grip on Jake's hand tightened more, and he could see hope flickering in her eyes. He knew this moment was bigger than just them. This was about challenging the very essence of what their community understood as family. But the woman at the front wasn't ready to back down. "Love is vital," she started, her arms still stubbornly crossed, "but what about structure? About routine?" Jake's stomach nodded at her words. He wanted to show her that they had those too, just in a different form. He could see the flicker of doubt she cast among the crowd. The tide could turn against them in an instant. "Life isn't about routine alone," Jake responded, choosing his words with care. "It's about resilience, companionship, and knowing that you are there for each other through what life throws at you." The crowd turned to Mia again, awaiting her response. "I have my whole life with my dad," she stated, the strength in her voice propelling her words outward. "We talk about everything. He loves me and supports me. I know I'm safe." Jake's heart thudded as he watched their murmurs evolve into something tangible, understanding, perhaps. Some shared nods and smiles spread across faces. Each small affirmation was like a brick being laid in the foundation of change. But the dissenting woman's brow furrowed. She shifted, searching for something to latch onto. Those are just words. How will you prove this love when your child needs guidance, like during a storm? As her words broke through, Jake felt a tremor of fear. What if they couldn't prove it? What if a storm was already brewing? He inhaled deeply, summoning everything inside him. Mia can deal with storms, he declared firmly. I've seen her rise stronger than I ever imagined. We face challenges together. That's what makes us family. The crowd shifted again, some intrigued, others still unsure. Jake's gut churned as he spotted a young boy watching from the sidelines, his wide eyes reflecting confusion. It hit him. They weren't just fighting for acceptance from adults, they were fighting for the hearts of the next generation. Let me ask you this, Jake continued, trying to reach beyond the debate brewing in the crowd. How can we teach our kids to love one another if we can't even love different families ourselves? What message are we sending? At that moment, a middle-aged man stepped forward, his brow relaxed. He's right. A child who knows love can teach love. My family may not be perfect, but we stick together. Jake saw Mia smile, a genuine smile. For a brief moment, hope enveloped Jake's heart. Would everyone soon be on the same page? Could they redefine what normal looked like? But just as applause began to ripple through the crowd, the initial dissenting woman interrupted, raising her hand dramatically. And what if they experience rejection? What if we're only setting them up for disappointment? Her challenge hung in the air, drawing the crowd's attention back. Jake felt the air thicken with tension, realizing that acceptance would not come easily. They had taken a step forward, but would it be enough to change minds fully? He looked to Mia, her wide eyes shimmering with worry. They couldn't be unprepared for the next wave. After all, the journey to reshape their narrative was just beginning, and the hardest part might still be ahead. Maybe it's not just about what we can say, he offered, voice steady and grounded, but what we're willing to do next. As he spoke, a realization washed over him. This wasn't just about them. It was about making a broader impact, a chance to redefine acceptance and love in their community. What came next could bring hope or doubt crashing down. In that moment, with hearts laid bare, would they step deeper into the storm or emerge victorious on the other side? Murmurs rippled through the crowd, a mix of buzz and uncertainty. Jake felt the weight of every single gaze on him, and he knew they teetered on the edge of something monumental. The woman's words still lingered like storm clouds, threatening to shadow their moment of hope. He could see that tension hanging in the air, and he wanted to dispel it, to lift the mood, to forge a path forward. Taking a breath, Jake stepped closer to the edge of the platform, channeling all the energy within him. What are we afraid of? He called out, voice rising above the murmurs. Why are we scared to let love lead the way? His heart thudded, an echoing drumbeat urging him onward. Mia leaned in closer, her fingers tightening around his, sending a wave of warmth through him. He felt her belief in what they were doing. Her eyes shined with a mixture of trust and determination, ready to embrace whatever came next. Life is full of uncertainties, he continued, his voice rising, fueled by urgency. Love wasn't meant to fit a mold. It's meant to break barriers. Each challenge is a lesson, and each storm a chance for growth. He scanned the crowd, looking for that glimmer of connection. Love isn't about creating a bubble. It's about embracing everything that comes our way together. Exactly, a man shouted from the back, his face lighting up with enthusiasm. That's how we learn. Just look at our kids. They teach us that every day. Jake's heart swelled. Maybe they were gaining some ground. More voices began to join in, enthusiastic and emboldened. What's the worst that can happen? A woman chimed in. We've all faced rejection one way or another. But we've learned to love fiercely regardless. Jake nodded, feeling a wave of hope wash over him. He could see the energy shifting. It was like being lifted on a tide. Were they finally reaching a breakthrough? He focused on that young boy watching from the side, searching for clarity in the chaos. "Listen," Jake said, voice steady and calm as he turned back to the crowd, "no one ever said this journey would be easy. But that's the beauty of family. It's about the connections we make when things don't go our way." He turned back to the boy, giving him a reassuring smile. "And with each challenge, we grow stronger, together." Silence soaked up the words, and he felt eyes soften around him. Maybe they could do this. Jake could feel something shifting in the crowd. The right kind of acceptance was stirring, like a gentle breeze warming up a chilly day. But just when he thought they might break through, the dissenting woman pushed forward again. "You talk a big game," she challenged, "but intentions aren't enough. What if you lose her? What if she endures pain because of your choices?" The crowd went still again, glancing back at Mia. Jake's heart dropped. The vulnerability of their journey splashed out in the open. "Mia," he called gently, leaning down close so they were eye to eye. "What do you feel when people question our family? When they doubt us?" She looked up at him, the confidence he had seen moments ago wavering. I don't want them to see me differently. I want to show them love matters more than anything," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. Jake wrapped his arms around her, holding her close. He felt the crowd watching, and he knew this was their moment. "What if," he said softly, "we show them? What if love makes us unshakable?" The air felt charged, cooking with possibility. Mia nodded slowly, the faith in her eyes rekindling. Jake looked to the crowd again. "I won't pretend it's easy," he said, his voice growing stronger. "But the journey is ours. If we keep walking together, we can weave our own narrative." The applause began as it started to build, a trickle at first, gaining momentum until it swelled into a storm of applause. It felt like a release, a collective breath of hope. Jake felt lifted. The storm of uncertainty had passed, but dark clouds still loomed over their path. Could they capture this newfound spirit and ride the wave forward? Jake's heart raced as he took in the charged atmosphere. Confidence brewing. But as he looked deeper into the eyes of the crowd, he realized the work had only just begun. What would come next? How could they harness this momentum to truly change hearts? The journey was far from over, and right now, it felt like everything hung in the balance. The applause echoed for a heartbeat, then became a soft hum as Jake looked into the crowd. Faces were changing, some lighting up with hope while others still held doubt. Mia squeezed his hand tighter, her grip steadying him. They were in this together, and that truth fueled his voice as he addressed the crowd again. "Thank you," he said, letting the gratitude seep into his tone. "Thank you for standing here with us. We're all on this ride, a ride that may be bumpy. But we don't have to navigate it alone." He nodded toward Mia, the spark of determination flaring brighter in her eyes. "This isn't just about us. It's about our friends, our families, everyone who believes that love is worth the fight. It's ugly sometimes. It's beautiful other times. This is what life is." A ripple of agreement surged through the crowd. Jake could feel their energy shifting. He took another breath to heighten the moment. "So let us keep speaking. Share your stories, your struggles, your victories. Let us fill this space with our voices." From the back, someone shouted, "I lost my mom last year, but I learned love can heal." A wave of nods spread across faces, a collective recognition. Others began to share, their stories punctuated by laughter and tears. Each tale added a stroke to the canvas of connection they were painting together. Mia's gaze remained fixed on him, those eyes brimming with admiration as he spoke, but something weighed heavy on her, a shadow lurking behind her bright demeanor. Jake noticed, a sliver of worry cutting through his heart. It seemed that while they were opening doors for others, she was still stuck somewhere within. When the stories quieted to gentle whispers, he turned back to her. "Mia, what's in your heart? What do you want to say? She hesitated, her lips quivering. It was a moment that felt like eternity, with the bustling crowd fading into silence. I worry sometimes that love isn't enough, she finally admitted. I want everyone to see how special our family is, but what if they let their fears hold them back? What if they fail to understand? Jake stepped closer, his heart pounding in his chest. Mia, love isn't meant to be understood by everyone. It's meant to be felt. He reached out to her, both hands cupping her face. Your heart is so beautiful. The journey you're on is the truth we share. We just have to keep moving forward. He leaned in, thumb brushing against her cheek. Behind them, the crowd remained spellbound. It felt personal, an intimacy they were all a part of, a shared heartbeat in the midst of chaos. He could see clarity returning to Mia's gaze, the fear dissipating, replaced by strength. Together, she whispered, echoing his conviction. Always together. A loud cheer broke out, pulling their attention back to the crowd. The eyes that flicked back to them were filled with a renewed sense of unity. They were no longer strangers but fellow travelers in a shared story of resilience. But as the crowd began to disperse, a figure stepped forward, blocking the light. It was the dissenting woman again, her expression unyielding. You've inspired them, but how long will it last? She challenged, a hard edge in her voice. When the next storm comes, how will you hold on to that belief? Jake's heart sank. He could feel the air thicken around them. Could their momentum withstand another storm? Could love truly anchor them when the world threatened to tear them apart? As anticipation climbed in the crowd, he knew they had to stand firm. But at that moment, he also realized this was only the beginning of their fight. How much strength did they really have to face what was still ahead? Would they be ready for the real challenges to come? A new dawn was on the horizon, but Jake couldn't shake the feeling that the fiercest battles were yet to unfold. The air hung thick with tension as Jake stood facing the dissenting woman, her words cutting sharper than he expected. The crowd, once filled with warmth and shared emotions, now felt uncertain, their hope teetering on the edge of doubt. Mia leaned closer to him, her presence grounding him, yet her eyes flickered with concern. Is love enough? The woman pressed again, her voice filled with a challenge that echoed around them. You talk about connection, but when life gets hard, will those whispers survive? Jake glanced at Mia, their shared moments flashing through his mind, each embrace, every tear, and the laughter that lingered in their memories. He had hoped this gathering would be a beacon of light, a testament to their resilience, but now the shadows of fear crept in. Taking a deep breath, he steadied himself. Its true love will be tested. Like a fire that refines gold, it will burn away the doubts, reveal the strength beneath. The words poured from him, fueled by urgency. But we're not warriors on this journey alone. Together, we rise. The crowd shifted slightly, as if his words were sparks igniting kindling. Yet, he could still see the dissent in the woman's expression. It was as though she carried the weight of 1,000 battles lost. Mia took a step forward, her voice trembling yet resolute. Nothing beautiful comes without struggle. The love we share. It's a choice we make every day. We don't back down simply because the path gets rocky. A murmur rippled through the crowd as people considered her words. This was more than a discussion. It was a movement, fragile yet powerful. From the corner, someone cried out, but what if we're too scared? A wave of nods followed, and Jake sensed the vulnerability hanging in the air. They were touching upon fears kept hidden for too long, fears that thrived in silence but had no place in their gathering. Mia caught Jake's eye, and he felt a surge of encouragement wash over him. Tell me, he said, directing the question to the crowd, what are you most afraid of? Let's put those fears on the table. One by one, voices spoke out, merging into a tapestry of honesty. I fear rejection. I fear not being enough. I'm scared that love will hurt again. Each statement resonated with profound truth, laying bare the emotional landscape they all traversed. As Jake listened, he felt the pulse of connection growing stronger. It was messy, raw, but that was the essence of their fight, the beauty of being imperfectly human. Mia stepped up again, this time radiating strength. Fear tells us to fight, but true power lies in vulnerability. When we share our fears, we take away their hold over us. The crowd slowly transformed, fear giving way to recognition. They began to see each other not as isolated souls but as a collective of shared journeys. Hope began to rise, fueled by the very honesty that had threatened to tear them apart. Jake glanced at the woman who had challenged them, her resolve softening ever so slightly. This was the moment they needed, the grounding in reality to face whatever lay ahead. But then, just as silence fell, a loud crack of thunder echoed from above. Dark clouds gathered quickly, ominous and unforgiving. The crowd looked up, anxiety creeping back in. "Mia," Jake whispered, his heart racing as the first drops of rain began to fall. The storm was coming, threatening to reset everything they had just built. "What do we do?" As droplets began to pelt the ground, excitement mingled with fear. Their collective strength still felt fragile, clinging to a hope that could easily slip away. Would they be able to withstand this storm, or would it wash away their newfound bonds? The answers lay ahead, shrouded in uncertainty, as they all faced the looming tempest together. The sky darkened as the storm reached its full fury, raindrops plummeting from the heavens like urgency unleashed. The crowd gasped, a collective intake of breath as they felt the first sting of cold, wet reality. Jake's heart raced, not just from the rain, but from the palpable shift in energy around them. Mia grabbed Jake's hand, her grip firm. "We can't let this break us," she said, her voice barely audible over the growing din of raindrops colliding with pavement. "We've come too far." He looked around. People were beginning to scatter, some seeking shelter under the nearby trees while others fumbled with umbrellas that were a moment too late. But Jake felt an urgency to hold on to this moment, to the raw honesty they had all shared. "Wait!" he shouted, raising his voice above the sound of the rainfall. "Please! If we run now, we lose everything we just built." The crowd halted, their eyes flicked back towards him, uncertain yet seeking. Jake took a step forward, rain soaking the bottom of his jeans. "I know you're scared. I am too. But this storm is just a part of life. We can either hide from it or face it together." He could feel the weight of those words digging in, pushing through the layers of fear. A few faces nodded, and slowly, a ripple of understanding spread. The dissenting woman stepped into view, her expression still stormy but less rigid. "You think we can endure this?" "It's not just about enduring," Mia chimed in, her voice rising above the rain. "It's about feeling alive. Each drop reminds us we're here, and we're fighting for each other. Let us use this moment to solidify our bonds." Jake's heart thumped in agreement, and he felt a surge of strength as some of the crowd began to inch closer. The storm might rage, but they could stand together as a fortress against it. One by one, they began to shed their fears, just as they had shed their worries of judgment. "I can't let my past define me," a young man shouted, shaking as the rain plastered his hair to his forehead. "I want to be better." "We all do." Another voice joined in, emboldened by the call of camaraderie. With every ripple of honesty, the fear seemed to dissipate, replaced by a warmth that the rain could not quench. Slowly but surely, arms reached out, some embracing, some hands clasping together, forming a circle of bound force against the storm. Jake felt the power in their unity, even as the raindrops intensified. This was their storm, literal and metaphorical. What once felt like potential destruction now surged with promise. Then, amidst the chaos, a laugh broke the tension. A small child, huddled under her mother's coat, raised her little hands to capture the rain. "Look! It's like the sky is crying happy tears," she squealed, eyes wide with wonder. Laughter erupted, cutting through the frantic chaos. The woman who had questioned them earlier couldn't suppress a smile, and like a wave, joy washed over the group. The storm was still raging, but now it felt different. Instead of a threat, it was an invitation to embrace every challenge, every fear that life threw at them. Jake watched as Mia twirled around in the rain, arms open wide as if welcoming the storm. It was contagious. Soon, others joined her, spinning like kids released from the weight of adult worries. With each ragged breath, he realized something powerful. This was only the beginning. Just as they had voiced their fears, they had also found strength, light, and resilience. But then, out of the corner of his eye, Jake noticed something flaring out between the clouds, a streak of brilliant light breaking through the darkness, almost like a promise. He turned to Mia, a question hanging in the air. "Do you see that?" Before she could answer, a massive crash of thunder reverberated through them, shaking the earth, turning their fragile moment back to uncertainty. What if that's just the start of something worse? The question loomed, heavy and ominous. Would their bonds withstand more than just raindrops? The storm was far from over, and so was their journey. As they faced the heavens, Jake couldn't help but wonder. What else was the storm hiding? The thunder rumbled again, a low growl in the distance, a reminder that the storm wasn't finished with them yet. Jake felt the tension crackle in the air, a surge of worry pulling at the corners of his mind. It was like a shadow creeping back over their moment of light. "I think we need to focus," Mia said, her voice steady. "Let us make our own light while the storm tries to drown us." She moved closer to Jake, her eyes shining with determination, her damp hair sticking to her cheeks. The crowd seemed to catch on to her words. Faces transformed from fear to resolve. A few people stepped forward, eyes blazing with purpose. "What do we do now?" Someone shouted, a young woman with vibrant pink hair standing tall despite the chill of the rain. "Let us share our stories," Jake replied instinctively, the idea sparking a warmth within him. "Let us remind each other why we're here, why we refuse to back down in the face of this storm." More voices rose up, each eager to contribute, drawing from their own experiences that echoed like raindrops on the pavement. A middle-aged man spoke first, his voice cracking slightly. "I lost my job last year, and everything seemed hopeless. But this community, it's given me strength to rebuild." Applause erupted, mingling with the thunder, drowning out the sense of despair. The atmosphere shifted again, morphed by a collective spirit that transcended the rainy day. One by one, they shared their burdens, their losses and triumphs threaded together like a tapestry. "I didn't think I could share my struggles," a quiet voice piped up from the back. It was the woman who had earlier questioned them. "But now, I feel stronger, like I can finally face the parts of me I've hidden away." Jake's heart swelled. There it was, the magic of connection. Each story was a drop in a growing pool of hope. Mia nodded fiercely beside him, her happiness radiating warmth despite the relentless downpour. As they created a circle of strength, sunlight pierced through the clouds, breaking into shimmering rays that painted the ground with fragments of gold. The storm felt distant now, almost irrelevant. But then, almost as if the universe was reminding them to stay grounded, another low rumble of thunder gripped the sky, shaking the ground beneath their feet. The fleeting moment of sunlight flickered, and a chill swept through the crowd, the air thick with questions again. "We're stronger together," Jake emphasized, trying to pull them back into the moment, to focus on the strength they had just uncovered. "But what happens when the storm really hits? Are we ready for that?" The realization of gravity loomed large, spreading an unease over the gathered crowd, bringing everyone back to the unpredictable nature of life. As scattered thoughts whirled in their minds, Mia squeezed Jake's hand tighter, mirroring his worry. Just then, a figure emerged from the corner of the square, silhouetted against the dark storm clouds. Everyone turned to see a man struggling with several boxes, his face strained but determined. He stepped within the circle, breathless. "I heard what you guys were saying. I thought I'd bring some food for everyone. If we're fighting the storm, we might as well do it together, right?" The crowd erupted in cheers, a collective shout of joy crashing like waves against the discord looming above. Perhaps they could thrive amidst the tumult, maybe even find answers for when the real storm arrived. But then, just as hope surged, that silhouette stole his breath away. The figure looked strikingly familiar, a face he hadn't seen in years, one that brought a cascade of memories flooding back. What was their story? Would this figure bring solace or unravel them further? Jake stood paralyzed in the moment, feeling the fragile thread of connection twist painfully in his chest. He knew he had to confront what was unfolding. But faced with the unexpected revelation, where would it take him? And the crowd standing shoulder to shoulder, his heart pounded as he stepped forward, ready for whatever that connection meant. Jake's breath hitched in his throat. The distance between him and the figure felt monumental, an aching expanse filled with unanswered questions and unspoken words. As the rain fell harder, blurring the shapes of the world around them, he couldn't shake the image of the boy he once knew. Logan? Jake's voice broke through the noise, barely above a whisper. He felt the eyes of the crowd shift, a pointed curiosity directed towards the man who had brought food, but now was tangled in a past long thought left behind. For a moment, it seemed like the storm paused, holding its breath as Logan turned slowly to face him. The recognition sparked like electricity, illuminating the space between them. Jake. The name rolled off Logan's lips like a long-forgotten melody, soft yet resonant. Jake took a tentative step forward, his feet moving almost of their own accord. Memories surged like a tidal wave, summer days spent running wild, the laughter that once echoed in their small town, before everything changed. Before the world fractured and they lost touch. What are you doing here? Jake finally found his voice, more surprised than confrontational. There was an entire universe of shared history hovering between them. I heard the thunder and saw a group gathered. I wanted to help, Logan replied, shifting the boxes in his arms. But it was the weight of his gaze that moved Jake most. It was heavy with regret and questions that mirrored Jake's own heart. As the crowd watched, Jake felt the collective anxiousness. Mia stood beside him, her expression unreadable but filled with compassion. He needed to process this, to figure out if Logan had come back as a friend or a specter of the past. Help how? Jake's voice was steadier now, though the apprehension danced in the back of his mind. You just show up out of nowhere. Logan glanced over at the boxes, his bravado flickering like a candle in the wind. I wasn't sure I'd see you again. Why not? Jake interrupted, frustration slipping through. You vanished. The words pierced the air like sharp shards of glass. Mia squeezed his hand, a silent reminder to calm down, but Jake couldn't quite control his rising temper. I had to leave. Things got complicated, Logan said, his voice low, barely above the din of rain. But coming back, I wanted to do something good. It felt necessary. The stories from moments ago hung suspended in the air, a stark contrast to the tangled feelings brewing in Jake's chest. Hadn't they all come together to share their burdens? To overcome the weight of their pasts? Explain then, Jake urged as a storm of emotions clashed within him. What do you mean? Why now? Logan hesitated, the vulnerability spilling from his eyes. Because I lost everything when I left. I want to rebuild, starting with you. Jake's heart raced. The crowd was holding its breath, an unspoken question lingering in the air. Who was this man now, after all these years? Could they reshape the history that had been shattered, or would it crumble beneath the weight of their unresolved pain? As Jake searched Logan's face for answers, the deep rumble of thunder echoed through the square once more. A reminder that storms come and go, but healing requires courage. Perhaps we can face this storm together, Logan said, almost humbly. I want to be part of this community and share my journey, too. The crowd began murmuring again, caught in the tangled web of emotions. They had all shared, but could they truly embrace Logan? Could they welcome him back into their lives? Before Jake could respond, a bright flash of lightning struck the ground nearby, illuminating everything around them. The crowd jumped, fear flickering back for a heartbeat. In that moment, Jake realized that the storm outside was merely a reflection of the storm brewing within him. What would he choose? Would he confront the past or let it define him? Suddenly, the possibility of connection felt palpable yet terrifying. With a heart full of questions, Jake gazed into Logan's eyes, ready to find out what this reunion truly meant. Jake felt the weight of Logan's gaze, a deep well of nostalgia and pain swirling within him. The rain poured harder, but inside him, something was stirring, a mix of warmth and resentment. Could he really trust Logan again? Or was this a fleeting moment like the raindrops that would soon evaporate? He glanced at Mia, whose eyes reflected the storm's light, filled with a soldier's bravery and concern. She had taken every step of this journey beside him, and her loyalty made him both proud and wary of failure. As he hesitated, the crowd murmured, sensing the tension, their collective breath held in suspense. "Let us talk," Jake finally said, grounding himself in determination. "What does rebuilding mean for you now?" He forced himself to keep his voice steady. This was a moment of truth, a moment that could redefine everything. Logan nodded slowly, the weight of years balancing upon his shoulders. "I made mistakes. But I want to reconnect. I've seen love and community in ways I pushed away before. I know we need each other." His words were raw, the truth threading through them, no more bravado or pride. Jake could feel the energy ripple throughout the crowd, unease morphing into something complicated yet hopeful. "And this community? Can you handle it?" Jake challenged, voice low but demanding, wanting to know if Logan truly understood the weight behind his words. "I want to try," Logan responded earnestly, lifting his chin. "I've watched from afar, and looking in made me realize how much I need this. I lost my way, but I'm ready to fight through it with you." In that eye of the storm, Jake's heart flickered, waves of doubt still crashed at the shores of his trust. But beneath the uncertainty lay an ember of something else, an undeniable hope for second chances, not only for them but for everyone. "Okay, Logan," he said quietly, feeling the tide of the crowd shift alongside him. "Let us put our hearts on the line together. But you need to understand, I won't let you hurt Mia again." He brought her hand into his, squeezing it gently. It was a silent pledge that shored them together. They stood suspended in the moment, as the atmosphere shifted further, clouds parting ever so slightly to reveal the bright rays of sunlight that streamed through, almost as if acknowledging their choice to face the storm. "Yes." A voice broke through. It was the young woman from earlier, the one whose vibrant pink hair seemed to glow even in the murky weather. "This is what community looks like: willingness to embrace change." More voices began to rise, affirming their belief in transformation. The feeling of acceptance echoed like a heartbeat, and gradually the crowd accepted Logan, welcoming him back with warmth of renewal. In the midst of it all, Mia smiled widely, her joy breaking through the clouds of uncertainty. She stepped forward, pulling together the courage she embodied. "I want us all to stand together. We can create a space of love that feels safe. That's what family is about." At that moment, laughter burst out like sunlight breaking through the gray. The crowd responded, enthusiasm bubbling over. They danced, the rain still drenching them but transforming into a sign of resilience, shimmering under the soft sunlight pouring through the clouds, each splash a symbol of defiance against adversity. Jake felt his heart fill, that sense of hope radiating through him. Life would always throw storms their way, what mattered was how they stood together and faced those storms. Only then did he realize that this moment had shaped him not just as a father or a community member but as a man ready to embrace new beginnings. Together, Jake echoed as he took Mia's hand, looking at Logan who stood at the apex of the circle they had formed. From that moment, they no longer stood alone, but intertwined, a thread woven into the fabric of change. As their laughter mingled with the rain and the sun shone brighter, Jake felt ready for whatever came next. This was their story, a mosaic of resilience, transformation, and love. He knew they would stumble, face more storms, but that didn't matter. Love would lead them forward. He glanced again at Mia, her bright eyes sparkling. They had overcome so much already, nothing would take away what they had built. The crowd erupted again into jubilation, feeling united in purpose. And as Jake raised his voice in exultation, something snapped tight within him, like a bowstring pulling taut. "Let us all grow together. Let's take a stand for love, no matter what the world tries to tell us. He felt empowered by the cheers that erupted around him, echoless sounds of unity echoing into the distance forever memorializing their powerful embrace of family, change, and love. As the sun came out in full, Jake turned to Mia, grasped her tiny hands firmly, and they held each other tight. "Always, Dad," she whispered, and he knew they would always face the storms together, and that never looking back again would be their strength. So, as they stood together, drenched in acceptance and blossoming hope, they were ready for the next story life had to offer. Now, dear audience, this is the moment for you to become a part of this journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending. Your voice matters. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of nurturing this beautiful community.